let's say, more modern in the last 20 years?
Absolutely. A more modern example might be someone like Ed Sheeran. He actually left his home in England and went to the United States to try to break into the music industry. He was playing tiny gigs and even couch surfing before he really got noticed. Eventually, he met some key mentors and collaborators, and his career took off. It's another version of that hero's journey pattern where you leave home, face the unknown, and come back transformed. So it's definitely something we see repeatedly, even in recent times.
And the reason why I bring this up is it came up on a post, I think on LinkedIn, from somebody that was just starting out on their journey. They're on the younger end of the scale as far as LinkedIn members, and they were talking about one of their friends and how they might have a hard time with this friend because they've made some changes in their life, and I think there was some struggle there. And I noticed that some people, like myself, I'm the youngest of four people in the family, so I'm the baby, and I don't think I was ever not seen as the baby until I went away. I left for the army and I came back. So I'm not going to say I went through the hero's journey, but sometimes you have to leave home for people to accept the change. Look at a regular employment situation. If somebody gets promoted to management, it's very common for people to be sent to another department to become a manager because the people that you're working with side by side that are at your same level prior to you getting promoted to management might not see you as management material because they've been your buddy, you've joked with them, and then now all of a sudden you have to be a serious manager. So sometimes you have to go away and then maybe later come back and become a manager of that department. Or you just stay wherever they send you. And I still don't see us coming up on YouTube, so I'm a little confused about that. Um, I see. Okay. All right. I see myself. I see myself. Well, now I'm panicking. So if folks watching this, and I did see earlier that it was saying that there were some viewers, if you can put some information in the chat, that would be really helpful. I would know if somebody's watching. Just put in the chat. I know there's a little bit of a delay. I'll figure out eventually how quick that delay is for those of you watching this, type something into the chat. I'll let you know the very second that I see it, and then that way we can both put our heads together and figure out how long the delay is between me seeing the comment and you seeing me mention it. Because I don't know what that delay is. And actually, we've got some more people jumping in. I appreciate your patience. I started this on time, by the way. I just didn't get it up to YouTube and the way I launched it. Anyway, it's a long story. So we were just, if you're just joining us, we were talking about the hero's journey. And Eva gave us a recap where the hero goes away, sometimes goes through trials and tribulations, slays a monster, and then comes back home and is celebrated a hero. And a lot of people in their personal lives have to get out of their town. They have, okay, thank you so much, Mike. I just saw your comment. So if you can, if you know when you typed it versus just now, that'll help me tremendously. So I've got that. Appreciate that. So I don't know how long that delay was between you typing it and me seeing it, but I just now saw it. So thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate that. So the hero's journey, if you're from the same small town and you stay in the same small town, it's going to be very hard. People have that vision of you, of who you were when you were a kid, who you were when you were a teenager, and you get frozen in time. So sometimes you have to leave. And okay, good. The delay's less than a minute. That's good because on my screen it looks like it's a lot longer. So that's excellent. So you can see as soon as you wrote that, that's how fast I responded. So thank you. And I left for the army. Like I was saying earlier, I'm the youngest of four kids. I was the baby. And when you're the baby, for those of you that know, you're always the baby, or sometimes the only child gets kind of this reputation. Or I've known people that were, let's say they really struggled during their teenage years. Maybe they had issues with drugs and alcohol, and then they got known as the drunk or the druggie or a lot of characteristics. And even as they got older and they got more experienced and they got more serious, it's very hard. Their old friends and even sometimes family keep you locked in that image of who you used to be. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, I was known for being very forgetful. And to this day, I can still get very deep in my mind. I can think, and then I don't know where I'm at because I'm just kind of standing there thinking. So I still do that, but I'm much more mindful about my belongings. And I think the last time I really, really lost something in an irresponsible way, I was 16. But prior to 16, I had lost a lot of wallets, money, change, house keys, and that reputation stayed with me. I remember being in my 30s and being at home visiting mom, and before I left her house, she was like, "Now don't forget your keys." I'd been 15, 16 years since I had forgotten keys. And she's reminded me, and I could hear that tone in her voice, like I was that 16-year-old kid who lost a bunch of wallets and keys. I wasn't even that person anymore. I hadn't been that person for a long time. So in the hero's journey, sometimes you have to leave and you have to go away. And then when you come back that new person, they'll see you as that new person. So there's really two parts to it. I would say, first of all, for most of you, don't worry too much about your friends that have known you for 20 years or that have known you for a long time in family. You probably won't be able to break out of that mold of how they see you unless you go away for a while. There's also, and this is something that's the great author Stephen Pressfield talks about, if you want to be a musician and you have a burning desire to do that, in those cases, it is better sometimes for you to relocate. There's some great musical opportunities that you can do from home, but if you want to be a serious recording artist, it helps if you're in Nashville, LA, or New York. Those are the three places. If you want to be an actor or an actress, LA, Hollywood, New York, Atlanta. That's where those things are being done. So you can do it elsewhere, but your chances, if you're in an epicenter of what that activity is happening, you'd be a lot better off. You want to be a visual artist, a painter, a photographer. There's a big community in Houston. And let's see if there's any messages here. I may have to close this down because that's making some noise. All right. So yeah, it may necessitate you moving and going somewhere. It definitely will change your image for the people that have known you for a long time. And in the last 2 years, I've had to let go of two of the longest friendships that I had running. And that was very painful for me. Um, and I wanted to talk about that on camera because a lot of it had to do with there was the self-esteem that I had 20 years ago and the type of behavior and the way I could tolerate someone speaking to me. So if you have a very low self-esteem and you don't think much of yourself, well, you probably won't be bothered if someone is down on you and kind of punching down on you all the time. Well, I had changed and my self-esteem had gotten a lot stronger, but these people saw that snapshot of the guy I was before, and they always talked to me as if I was the old guy. Now, I'm not saying I'm too good for anybody. What I'm saying is I changed. I got stronger. I started feeling better about myself and knowing the value of who I was. And when I looked at the relationship I had with them and the friendship and the level of reciprocity, they were the two oldest friendships that I had were the people that disrespected me the most. They weren't supporting anything I was doing, though I was trying to support what they were doing and being cheerleaders for their project. So to get off of me for a second, a couple of years ago, I had somebody, I don't want to call them out. They might be watching this, but you know who you are if you hear this. Somebody very close to me has had a friend of more than 3 decades. And this friend of mine has had a business for equally as long. And they mentioned that this friend that they've had for 30 years has never, ever sent them a business referral. And they're in a business where it would be easy to send them business. And they've had strangers on the street that barely knew them for 5 minutes send them customers. And here is this buddy of theirs for 3 decades, never, and they've done favors for them. It sounds like the relationship was very one-sided. And unfortunately, and that they may stay talking to each other, but somebody like that, all those people, I've already let go of all those relationships that were anywhere close to that. And I'm not telling you anybody here on camera to get rid of all of your friends. But if there's not some level of reciprocity there where, I want to support what they're doing. I want to support what you're doing, even if I don't know you. And I constantly say this on the channel, post your stuff. I want to promote what you're doing. but I also want the people in my life to promote what I'm doing to a certain degree. You know, if there's a deep relationship there and I've known you for years, yes, I would like it if you shared if you subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you wrote a comment. You don't have to make it a full-time job, but I want to support what you're doing, and I want people in my life that support what I'm doing. And I think if we start setting those boundaries, we're going to have a lot better life. And because you don't need many people, I said that towards the end of the video that I shot yesterday. You don't need but a couple of dozen people that are very supportive of what you're doing. So I'm going to take a second just to catch up with any comments that are on here and see if I can answer any questions. There was a lot of noise coming from Facebook. And when I talk to Eva, when I talk to the AI, she comes through my main speakers. So I don't have a way to uh, stop the messages on Facebook and to not hear her without closing Facebook down. So I apologize for that. So let me just look really quick to see if there's anything there. Okay, there's nothing there. And as far as our comments, I don't see any other comments in the on the YouTube channel, but I do see people watching. Thank you so much. Appreciate Mike's comment. If anybody else wants to put a message there, if you want to join the conversation, I have the link for the Zoom meeting that I can send to you with the code and everything. I didn't want it to be a free for all. I wanted people to ask to come on so that I could send them the information. Yesterday, I just blasted out the code to the meeting and everything to the public. So this time, I just want to make sure that we're getting people that really want to be on and want to be serious. So we've been lucky so far. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, I want to start with the hero's journey. And sometimes you have to leave home, and sometimes you have to let old friends go because people get stuck in their vision of who you are, especially if you've made major changes in your life. And what I've noticed too, there have been a few older relationships where I've stepped away from those people for a long time because, again, they had this old picture of me that they couldn't seem to let go. And after a long time away from them, they came back into the fold, and they could kind of see the changes that I've made. And I'm always trying to work towards changing and being a better person. I want to be a better person 5 years from now than I am now, and I hope everybody is on that same journey. So we did talk about on this that we wanted to talk about writing and podcasting, and Robert Lane, who runs your book. Let's see, your book, Your Voice, Your Book. Robert Lane is a audiobook coach. He's been very supportive of the channel. He corrected me yesterday of something I said in my writing group about your audiobook. And I highly encourage anybody who's going to write a book, definitely do an audiobook. The only time an audiobook is not recommended is if your book is very visual or it's very technical. And even then, you probably still should do it. And then you could just do a supplementary PDF. The audiobook book market is huge and it's growing. Kindle, I'm not personally a big fan of Kindle. I don't even like reading paperbacks and hardbacks anymore. I'm 100% audiobook. I've bought paperback books and hardback books as references to pick them up if I need them, but to sit and go through 5, 6, 700 pages, I won't do it. But audiobook, I love it. I can go on double speed on a lot of things. So if you write your book, definitely do an audiobook version. You're missing out on a huge part of the market if you don't. If your book starts to do well, I would encourage you to also have it translated into Spanish. Let's get Eva's opinion on that. She gave me this number before, but I want everybody on the meeting to hear this again. Eva, tell me, how many native Spanish speakers are there in the Western Hemisphere alone?
Sure. In the Western Hemisphere alone, there are roughly about 420 million native Spanish speakers.
That's your market. All right. That's huge. And it's growing. So seriously consider that. Although audiobooks for people who primarily speak Spanish is not as big of a market as it is in the US and Canada, it is growing. Somebody asked me before about Amazon. Amazon is not as prevalent outside of US and Canada. It does have a presence in Mexico, and it does have a presence in Brazil, and it's growing. But if you're selling Spanish language books, you're going to be back to selling physical books and trying to get them into the bookstore. And that's more complicated than I want to get into on this, but I do want to encourage people to write and to publish. The book that I'm working on right now, which is about LinkedIn, I didn't know much about it when I started the book. I wanted to write the subject. I wanted to learn about the subject, try to master it, put some things in place on LinkedIn, and then produce a book. So there's people that have written those particular subjects like Windows for Dummies or PCs for Dummies that weren't subject matter experts before they did the research. Now I understand a lot more about LinkedIn just through the process of research. So you don't have to be, especially if it's a nonfiction topic, you don't have to be afraid of going into it without knowing anything about the subject you're typing about. You just have to do the research first. So I've been doing tons and tons and tons of research. And I found out a lot of amazing things about LinkedIn that I didn't know, such as it's older than Facebook. It's actually a year older than Facebook and things like that. So anyway, this talk's not about my book. It's about trying to encourage you to write. So just make sure that you're doing great research if you're doing a nonfiction business book. And also, too, make sure that your writing is appealing. That's one part where I struggle with. The book still has to be, even in nonfiction, if you're delivering nuts and bolts, it still has to be engaging. And you can inject some of that by understanding the three act story structure. And we'll get Eva's recap into that. Let's have her explain that to us. Eva, explain the three act story structure in writing in 70 words or less.
Sure. The three-act story structure is a classic narrative framework that divides a story into three parts: setup, confrontation, and resolution. In Act 1, you introduce characters and the world. Act 2 brings in conflict and challenges. Act 3 wraps it all up with a resolution.
That's very good, Eva. I appreciate that. Also, tell me too about the advice that they give a lot of writers to not talk about a particular thing, to describe it. In other words, where you're really putting someone there in the environment.
Absolutely. That advice is basically the classic show, don't tell principle. It means that instead of just stating facts directly, you immerse the reader in the scene by using sensory details, actions, and dialogue. Basically, you don't just say it was a scary place, you describe the creaking floorboards and the flickering shadows, and let the reader feel the atmosphere.
I think that's a really good summary. And there are some great books about that. I would encourage you to pick it up. But to understand the important part about the three act structure is, and again, that's more for fiction, but you do need to work some stories into nonfiction. So let's say if you're doing like I'm writing about LinkedIn and I'm talking about Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. And there are sections where I'm talking about he was involved in this and how a certain thing got started. Well, there's a beginning and a middle and end of that story, and there's a point. So all that has to be woven in there. Some people are really good storytellers, some people aren't, but you can become a good storyteller by understanding the three act structure. And then you, inside of that three act structure, you do the showing, not the telling. So, in other words, like Eva said, if it's a scary place, well, you need to describe, the gray walls smelled of dank, where you're really putting somebody there. Um, and that's where Stephen Pressfield, and I encourage you to pick up any of his books. Really, really good. And I love how he writes. So he gives a lot of nuts and bolts information, but he writes in such an exciting, engaging way. I would read a recipe book written by this guy on things that I would never even cook just because the way he describes things. He's just so engaging in the way that he writes material. So if I could imitate any writer style, I would say Stephen Pressfield is the one. Now there are books that I think give a lot better information than his, but as far as getting good information and enjoying the ride along the way, Stephen Pressfield has no peer. I think he's the best nonfiction writer out there. And he also writes fiction on top of that. He's very well revered for that, but fiction is just not my genre. Now, as far as podcasting, I wanted to go into some things that I didn't get to yesterday. I'd planned to, but I had already gotten, I think, 54 minutes in on camera where I was talking about my tech stack and all of these programs. And I didn't get into the cost of each one, but we're talking about a Zoom. I just re-upped my Zoom. That's 160 a year. I'm paying for a subscription of Descript. I'm now paying for a subscription of vidIQ, and there's probably a few things that I'm missing, but I'm using vidIQ to choose what, and that's not, yeah, actually I did use it a little bit on the title of this video as well. I used a little bit of their suggestion and then some of my stuff. But vidIQ can tell you subjects that you should be talking about, things that are currently popular. So it's kind of a search engine, video search engine optimization tool that tells you what you should be talking about. I don't really want to quote unquote play to the algorithm. I still want to talk about what I want to talk about. So they'll also suggest what the title of the video should be about. vidIQ creates thumbnails, which I think they're okay. They're not too bad. It's better than what I could probably create in Canva. A lot of thumbnail creators use Canva. I'm not really good at that. It steals my joy to spend a lot of time doing design. So I'd rather give AI a prompt than it give me something back. And if I'm not completely happy with it, I'd still rather just put that up. As I said in the video yesterday, the thumbnails are really important. Book covers and thumbnails. And I hate that. You think, oh, the content should be good. Yes, the content should be good, but nobody's going to click on something and nobody's going to buy a book if the cover looks like dog do. And nobody's going to watch a YouTube video tip probably if the thumbnail is really, really bad, if it doesn't sell. So a book cover is an advertisement for the book, really, if you think about it. Your preview of your audiobook on Audible, because they allow you to do 5 minutes on there, that needs to be a part of your book that really sells whatever you're talking about. And then your thumbnail for your YouTube video should be advertising to sell people to click on that video and to watch it. And something that I didn't understand for probably the first 6 months of running the podcast, that your thumbnail shouldn't have the same words as the title to your video. So again, the thumbnail should be, why should somebody click on this thing? It should be an advertisement for the video. And then obviously your title will be what's going to be discussed. Um, and those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but just remember that the purpose of the thumbnail is to get people to click. So I really dislike the psychology behind that, but I get it. I understand it. I didn't want to be one of those creators where I was making funny faces and, the people that do the clownish looks and, Mr. Beast has always got his mouth open and he looks surprised. I don't want to be that guy. I've got a couple of videos where you can see I was leaning a little bit in that direction, but that's not who I am. I mean, I smile, I laugh. I don't care what people think of me, and I'm not afraid to embarrass myself, but I just don't want to look like a clown in all of my thumbnails. I don't want to be pointing like an idiot every single video. So I would rather get a little bit less views and do it the way that I want to do it, which is what I talked about yesterday. Um, you can probably, and I may even experiment a week of shooting just what vidIQ and just what YouTube is saying I should do to play to the algorithm just to see if that changes anything on the viewership. But as far as vidIQ, to get back to that, it can tell you what you should be talking about. It can do your thumbnail. It can do your title. It can suggest a really good title for your video. It can suggest a good description. It'll actually kind of watch the video or scan the transcript, and then and it's not as good in that regard, but it will suggest a description. You don't have to cut and paste the whole thing. You can put it in just to save some time and then edit it. The other part of the YouTube video, which is not as important as it was a few years ago, are the keywords. vidIQ can sometimes help with keywords as well. Again, not as critical as it was a couple of years ago. Um, the other thing too is you can break shorts. So I use Descript. I give Descript the full hour and 20-minute raw video that I shoot. So this is live now, and I'm probably not going to go back and fix it. But yesterday's video, I shot for over an hour and then edited it down to 54 minutes. I used a program called Descript to cut that down. I did the scene transitions. It allows me to pop up photos. I can play videos in the background. I can play music. Descript is great. I think for people without a lot of video editing experience like myself, it's a great tool. You can get going, and you can also edit by script. So it transcribes everything that you say. So instead of having to go into the the trim of the video itself. You can actually just look at the transcript and you're like, okay, I don't like that sentence. You just cut it out and that part of the video goes away. Very intuitive program. I think Descript dollar for dollar is probably the best money I've spent. And another program that I have that I didn't mention that I pay for is Calendly. Calendly is a great tool if you're doing a person-to-person interview, one-on-one interview show. Um, it's fantastic because you can have people sign disclaimers and it gives them meeting reminders. And so, yeah, I would say the three things I probably couldn't live without are Zoom, Descript, and Calendly. If you're going to do an interview style podcast, I humbly recommend you start with those three things and the paid version of each. Um, but if you want to just, like I said yesterday, if you want to just get on YouTube and start telling people about your journey and your sobriety or your story, or just pick up your iPhone, go live, pick up your iPhone, shoot a video. You don't have to get all of this stuff. You don't have to spend a dime to get started. You really don't have to. But if you want to get guests on and have an engaging discussion and things like that, having the Zoom, the Calendly, and the Descript for editing will make you a lot more professional. And then when you start getting very serious and you're like, you know what? I'm going to be a podcaster. I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm going to be a solo content creator. When you get to that point, I recommend vidIQ. I've only had vidIQ a few days, but I can see its value. Um, I'm not seeing a big lift or an impact on the channel itself just yet, but I'm going to give it a chance. You know, you can't find out what's going on just in a day. So I'm just going to check socials here real quick to see if anybody has sent any messages in. And if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully we won't lose any viewers here while I'm stumbling around looking to see if anybody's got anything they want to ask. Eventually, if we get a lot of viewers on this, I can bring in a VA. When I was first doing the Mastermind podcast, I had a really nice lady from the Philippines who was actually running the Zoom part and letting me know about the questions, and that was a blast. That way, I didn't have to fumble around, and we could all just stay up on the discussion, and I didn't have to multitask. And I say it every video, but I am the world's worst multitasker. I can't do two things at one time. That way I didn't have to fumble. There we go. I'm watching the live. Yeah. Any comments? There's appreciate you all watching. I see that there's a couple of viewers now. Thank you so much for that. If you want to enter something in the chat, I know not everybody has a YouTube account. I encourage you to get one, even if you're not going to create content. But if you want to drop something in the chat, a question about writing, a question about podcasting, a question about the hero's journey, and we'll go from there. So the other thing too about writing and publishing that I wanted to mention is, although for the revision of my first book, which should be out in about a month, I am going to do a hardback version. Now, I don't have to print those. I don't have to pay for those up front. People don't realize Amazon is a print on demand, POD. So I don't have to buy any copies. Everything's free. All I do is write my book, convert it to a PDF, have a professional do the cover art. So I upload the JPEG or photo for the cover art. I upload the manuscript. I fill out some information. I'm making it sound a little bit easier than it is, but it's not. There's not much to it. It's simple, but it's not easy because there's a lot to it. But once you do it, once you go through the whole process once, it gets easy the second, third, and fourth time. But my recommendation, even though I am going to do a hardcover because I'm a business nonfiction writer, and I guess there's some like for gifts, I want to have some hardcovers, really, to be honest. The only thing that's different in the formatting, the manuscript itself is not going to be different because the dimensions of both the soft cover and the hardcover are going to be 5.5 by 8.5. Now you can go with a different size, and there's different sizes for different purposes, but the content that I was providing, that's the size I'm comfortable with. I've already gotten copies of the book before in that size, hardcover and soft cover, and I think it's a good size. If you don't have a really thick book, and you want to make it look thicker, you can get smaller dimensions, which is going to make more pages. The downside to that is your cover is going to be smaller, so you're going to have to choose between having a big space for some splashy cover art or a much smaller paperback. So those are discussions that you and I can have offline. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. I have a writers group on LinkedIn and or Facebook, but that's something to think about. My point of what I was trying to say was you don't have to do a hardback, especially if you're doing fiction, fantasy, um, just in general. Now, the only thing I have to do differently, because the manuscript is should, under normal conditions, should be the same. Manuscript, you're going to have to make a few changes to it if you upload it to Kindle, which I recommend you do. You know, I have mine as a Kindle, softcover, hardcover, and I narrated the audiobook, which I'm going to have to do all of that stuff over again for this revision of Scintilla. But you don't have to do the hardcover. But the big change on the hardcover is I need slightly larger graphics for the hardcover. So I had to pay an upcharge to the designer to do the hardcover. The reason for that is the hardcover artwork wraps around. So if you have a hardcover somewhere around your house, open it up. You'll notice that there's what they call a bleed. They have to wrap that kind of cardboard cover with this slick artwork. And and that's the dimensions are slightly different than the paperback that's allegedly the same size. So another thing too that people don't realize is that the audiobook cover is square, which is a different format. So if you go to Upwork, for instance, and you hire a book cover designer for your 5.5 by 8.5 nonfiction business book, and they give you that artwork, and you just try to jam it in as your audiobook cover, it's going to be resized as a square. And it's, I can tell you from personal experience, it's not going to look right. So just let the designer know that you need, if you're going to do a hardback, you're going to need hardback dimensions, which is different. And all that information is on Amazon. You don't have to guess. Um, if you pick a particular book size, it tells you what the cover size is going to be, need to be in the bleed and all that. So that's Amazon KDP. Another thing that I haven't mentioned before, I don't remember ever mentioning it as far as publishing is concerned, but I highly encourage you do this. If you're going to publish on KDP, and if you do your audiobook, it'll be through ACS. It's ACX. It's all Audible, and it's all within the Amazon ecosystem. But audiobooks go through ECS, and the Kindle paperback and hardback go through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. But I think everybody who's going to publish should also have an Amazon Associates account. So, like an affiliate. And you can shoot YouTube videos. And if you go back to some of my past YouTube videos, I mentioned other business books that I recommend, writing books, podcasting books. If you click on those, some of them I'll get an affiliate commission. The importance for you as an author is if you have that, if you're part of the affiliate program and you want somebody to buy your book, you're not just sharing a copy, a link to Amazon for your book, which is great too, but you can make more money. Yes, you can get affiliate commissions off of your own products. A lot of people don't know that. So sign up for the Amazon affiliate program. Don't just share the direct link to your Amazon book, share the Amazon affiliate link. And that way you'll get a commission. It's not a lot of money, but it's more than nothing. And if you're selling a lot of books, let's say you get to the point where you're selling 100 books a month, which is not bad for independent publishing. That's we're talking, it could be several hundreds to a few thousand extra in your pocket each year, all for signing up for Amazon affiliate. The only downside to being an Amazon affiliate is that they do want you to make, and I don't have the number off the top of my head. Let's see if Eva can help us with this. Let me ask her. Eva, if somebody is part of the Amazon affiliate program, I know that there's a minimum amount of sales or commissions they have to make. Do you have access to that information?
Sure. Right now, Amazon affiliates generally need to make at least 3 qualifying sales within 180 days of joining. If they don't hit that mark, the account could be closed.
There you go. 180 days, which doesn't sound tough, but if you're not constantly uploading YouTube videos, and if you're not real big on social media, that could be tough. That could be tough. And I've had a few prior affiliate accounts canceled because I didn't make the and I think it gets reviewed every 180 days. So just be mindful of that and make some more money off your book. Get that Amazon affiliate. All you got to do is go into Google and type Amazon affiliate. Your account as an Amazon affiliate is going to be slightly different than your regular Amazon account that you buy your packages online. And it's also different, excuse me, from the ACX account that you're going to have for your audiobook and your KDP account for your print versions and Kindle versions of your book. It's not hard to have all of those different accounts, but just realize you have to register for each one. Um, Link that affiliate info. Okay, yeah. Let's yeah, I just couldn't imagine somebody writing a book, taking all of that, putting all that effort in to writing a book and then not making that extra juicy affiliate money. Because again, if you're selling a lot of books, it's a boost. It's worth it. Yeah, it's called Amazon Associates Central. And this takes you to the home page. I'm going to drop it in the YouTube chat. Thanks, Mike, for asking that, by the way. So if you look in the chat, you'll get looks like it's Amazon, excuse me, https:// affiliate program.amazon.com/. You can click on it there. Definitely do it anyway. Even if you're not an author, do it anyway. If you like something, I know people that make all of their money. They live off of their Amazon affiliate commissions. They're not even authors. I have this. I don't have them within reach because I have an arm that's not operating right now. But I have these pens that I use that I love, and I have these writing pads that I really enjoy, and they're not like regular legal pads. They're amazing. I mean, it's really, really something. And I just feel more creative when I use them because they're very high quality tools. It's like if you've ever worked with a mechanic and they have really nice snap-on tools or and they're very proud and clean tools. And it's just, wow, it's amazing. And I'm sure when these mechanics put their hands on these serious tools, they feel like a serious mechanic. And I feel the same way when I use I think it's called it's a stainless steel Sharpie ultrafine pen. I love writing with it. It's my primary writing tool. I type a lot, but if I'm writing ideas, I'm out on the road, I use this Topps Docket Gold writing pad. And I feel like a rock star using this great pen and this great pad to write down ideas. And I talk a little bit about this in Scintilla about the psychology of your environment if you're trying to create something or do something or be serious or capture ideas. The room that I'm in now, I can't show you because it would mess up the angle, but I've completely converted this room to a studio. You come in here and there's really not much else you can do other than be a serious podcaster. So I created this miniature environment that when I come into it, it sets the tone, it sets the mood. So going back to the Amazon affiliates, what the point is about all of that is I have these things that I really enjoy a lot, and I don't feel salesy by sharing an affiliate commission, an affiliate link that I'm going to get a commission on things that I actually use. I'm not one of those guys you remember, was it last year or the year before, where there were all these podcasters that got in trouble because they were selling these junk knives and they were selling the I don't know, Scottish ancestry thing where you could be a king or a queen. I don't know what they were doing, but I mean some big podcast. I'm not going to mention any names, but you'd know them if I said them. And they were selling these junk knives that were made in China, and they were lying about the marketing, saying that they were made in Japan, and a lot of people got embarrassed. So I'm not gonna end up in any controversy like that because I'm not going to talk about anything that I don't use. And again, I don't want to be a clown. I don't want to be on the thumbnails pointing with my mouth open, looking like a moron. And I don't want to be selling something, affiliate commission for a few dollars, selling my soul over a product that I never actually used. All these things that I mentioned, these software programs, I don't have any affiliate links from them. I am a member now of Podmatch, which helps me find. Right now, I'm on there to be a guest on other people's podcast. I will probably once I haven't done my first interview using that yet, but once I feel confident about that service, because that is a paid service too, and it's a little bit pricey monthly, but if you're looking to get on some podcasts or you're a podcaster wanting guests, Podmatch, I was told by a lot of people that it's a great solution. If it starts working for me, I will start posting that affiliate link and I will get a small commission if you join up. So anyway, back to the Amazon thing, I don't mind making a few bucks off of something I'm promoting if it's something I truly believe in and something I use. And I'm telling you, I'm a fanatic for those Sharpie stainless ultra fine. You want to get me a Christmas present, just those pens. I love them. And those the legal pads, I love them. Topps Docket Gold. They're the most luxurious legal pad. They're thicker than any computer paper you've ever had in your life. So the Sharpie pen doesn't bleed through it. You just feel like you're writing something substantial. So it really puts you in the mood, which was the point of what I was trying to say earlier. Sometimes you'll use your environment or your tools to just make you to bring you into the moment and put you in the mood. Yeah, absolutely. Marie has joined us. Hi, Marie. Are you going to join us on the call as well, or just are you just going to lurk on YouTube with us? Let me know in the comments. I'll keep my eye on it. I don't think I've been looking at the Zoom. So if you've been trying to join the Zoom, I need to check that. I apologize as I jump around jump around here. I'm trying to find, I have so many windows open. I can't see if somebody's trying to join if somebody's trying to join the Zoom or not. Give me just a moment. I apologize. Oh, you're going to lurk. Okay. That's perfect. That's perfect. I think you were the only one that got the code, Marie. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing out on pulling you into the meeting. And Marie, let us know in the comments what time it is there on your side of the world. It's 8:45 here on the East Coast. I believe Mike in the chat, he is in Central Time, so it's probably 7:45 p.m. there. And then we're going to find out what time is it in your part of Australia. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead. I mean, I'd like to respond to questions because I've covered a lot of the material that I had. I have a lot of things over here on my notes that I could riff on, but I really do want to respond to some questions that you might have because I think that's going to be more value to you if I'm answering some things that you're thinking about. Oh, it's lunchtime in Australia. All right, and she's Maria's over there by where the Hemsworth family either grew up or they vacation. I'm trying to remember, Marie. All right, so I wanted to talk about another thing that I didn't mention in yesterday's video. And you know when I talk about negative experiences, I don't mention names, but there's a phenomenon where I know somebody that went to a really good doctor. And even in the book Principles, which was by, I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the person. It was a great book called Principles. Anyway, he went to a world-renowned doctor for something and was given some advice he didn't like it. So he went and got a second opinion by another prominent doctor. They went in a completely different direction with his treatment, and it ended up being a much better situation than if he had gone through with what the first guy was going to say. His life would have not been the same. So my point to you and the story that I'm about to tell you about is you don't know what you don't know. And when I wrote Scintilla, the manuscript, I knew I needed help. So I took it when it was about 80% finished. And I thought an editor is an editor is an editor. And I realize now there are developmental editors. I don't remember them all. Let me get Eva in here just to make sure so you can hear how many different type of this is blew my mind when I started doing research and it'll make more sense of the story. Eva, as far as publishing a book, let's just say business nonfiction, I know there are a lot of different types of editors, like developmental editors, etc. Can you name each type of editor and let's say a 15 or 20 word explanation of what each type of editor does as far as book publishing?
Absolutely. Here are a few common types of editors. A developmental editor focuses on big picture structure, helping shape the overall content and flow of the book. A line editor fine-tunes language and style at the sentence level. A copy editor corrects grammar, punctuation, and consistency. And finally, a proofreader does a final check for typos and minor errors before publishing.
There you go. So there's a lot of different types of editors. And what I did when the book was about 80% done, I was very exhausted. I'm not gonna lie, I was very exhausted. I was getting very tired of reading and writing the book. It was the first time, and the first time doing anything is usually a struggle. And I took that book in its unfinished state and I went to Upwork, which I've been on for years, and I've got a lot of experience on Upwork. If anybody wants to know how to get a good freelancer or need tips on that, let me know because I've had good, moderate, and bad experiences, and I haven't had a bad experience in a while. And there's the right way and the wrong way to do it. But I got with a guy in the U.S. in the West Coast in the L.A. area. This guy had 43 years of publishing experience. I won't say his name because it wasn't a good experience. And um, I'm very good at communicating what my expectations are because I know that's where a lot of things break down, right? If you're not very explicit in what you want, you're going to be very disappointed. So the times that I usually end up talking about a bad experience is when I know in my heart of hearts that I was very clear about what it was I was expecting. And he had the resume. He'd been involved in a lot of books, a lot of big projects. He was a big name, and we negotiated a deal that I felt was equitable considering his experience. And I thought it was going to be a hands-on collaboration. I thought he was going to be involved in the developmental process because I really needed to kind of figure out how to wrap up the book because I couldn't figure out how to put a fork in it. And he didn't really get involved in that part. And there were long pauses between the communication, which is never good. So my point to you is like the person with the doctor. You can go to the greatest editor in the world, you can go to the greatest mechanic in the world, you can go to the greatest doctor in the world, and they still may not value your project as much as you value your project. So I would say the money, the money that I've spent that got the least that I got the least for my money in the last 2 years is the marketing for the mastermind group. And I think that was Google Ads. I'll have to go through and that was an absolute 100% waste of money. Learned very little from it too, which is extra painful. And then the second thing was hiring this guy. Um, the quality was so low, although he had the background, he had the capacity, he could have really wowed me out and blown me away. But for some reason, he just didn't make my project a priority. And because of because the communication was so delayed, I just took what he had and I ended up having to go back and correct some of his corrections. And but now I realize, if I was going to do a big book, I need several different types of editors, and but also he should have done a better job. Um, and the sad thing about him is that now I'm so well versed in Chat GPT 5.1, and I've got this good, obviously good working relationship with Eva that she has for $20 a month, and he was close to $1,000. I'll tell you the price, which is cheap for an editor. 1,000 is nothing really, but for a guy like me, doing a first book, that was a lot of money to me. For a guy living in LA, I mean, I think lunch is probably $1,000. I'm exaggerating, but $1,000 is not a lot of money in LA. Um, but I definitely didn't get $1,000 worth of value. And for $20 a month, ChatGPT 5.1 has done more for me with both the revision of Scintilla, which hopefully will be coming out in about a month, and I'm now halfway through this LinkedIn book. I guarantee you, if I wasn't leaning on ChatGPT for research, and I do still check, like if I'm going to put something in that's critical, I'm double checking what the AI is saying. But that $20 a month got me far more return on my money than $1,000 to this editor, this hotshot editor in LA. I wish him the best. I mean, I'm not mad at him. It was a great lesson. And the other thing about creating a YouTube channel is that I can share this lesson with you so that you don't have to give a guy $1,000 and be disappointed. Use AI Lean on, we've that's why we've got the writing group in LinkedIn and also on Facebook. You want me to look? I mean, I don't want to read 100 pages of your book. I'm not going to lie to you. I can feed it into my AI, but I will look at your first couple of chapters if you're struggling with a particular section. I mean, it's not like I'm Stephen King or anything, but if you need a second pair of eyes, I'm happy to help. I know there are other members in the group that are happy to help. You could probably put a chunk of your book in the group and just open it up for the floor. Hey, what do you think about this? The part that I loved about working with AI, and this was something that I really struggled with, is if a chapter had a bunch of different ideas, different things that I wanted to get across, but I'm not good at transitioning between subjects. You can probably tell I don't do that great in this video either. There should be like this lead in and this slow transfer between subjects. I was having a lot of difficulty. And AI is really good at giving me ideas rather for bridge paragraphs. I think AI writing sucks. There's very little of what it's given me in that book. Usually I just they give me the idea. How do I bring these two paragraphs, these two ideas together? And then they write something that I would never paste into a book because it's not good writing. But I see that sentence structure and I get the idea. And it's like trying to write a song, and it gives me just a couple of notes. And from there, I'm like, okay, now I've got a rhythm, I've got a melody. So I'm riffing off of what AI is giving me. But the writing quality, I don't think AI is going to take over writers anytime soon. I mean, there'd have to be a big change because the stuff, and I've used prompts to try to get it to write really fancy and write in the voice of Hemingway. And no, it's terrible. And I'm not a good writer, but on my worst day, I'm better. I'm better than ChatGPT 5.1. Unless you all know of some prompt I don't know about, and you can put that in the comments. I'm not really impressed with what ChatGPT turns out as far as work. But it's a great research partner, and it's pretty good at catching mistakes. So I fed chapter by chapter and I'll tell it, take a look at this chapter. I want you to comment on, and you've got to start saving really good prompts. You can have a Word document on your desktop. I like Notepad a lot because you can have all these little Notepad tabs, and I've got some of my prompts stickied up on, virtually in my computer in Notepad, and I'll say, please review this chapter. Look for spelling errors, grammar errors. I might start that first. So you want to get grammar, spelling, and punctuation, which technically grammar they consider is also part of punctuation, but I say it anyway. So I'll go for those obvious mistakes first. Later, when I'm about to finish the chapter and I'm not going to go back to it, and this is just prior to maybe getting it ready for publication, then I'll start asking it to find repetitive words. A lot of people don't look for that. So I'm looking for word repetition because that makes people tune out when they're reading it. I may even start to ask about flow. So what can I change here to flow? What I like to do, and this will keep you from copying a terrible AI written paragraph and put it in your book, which again, I think that will hurt you as a writer if you do that. I sincerely don't suggest that you do that. At least not at the level of quality, a low level of quality that AI writes right now. But what I'll tell ChatGPT to do, when I give it a chapter, I'll say to it, don't rewrite the chapter. Just find the sentences that you think have issues and give me an A-B comparison. In other words, I want to see the original sentence that I wrote, and then I want to see your suggested revision. And I look at it a sentence at a time. And I'd say probably a fourth of the time, I don't use their suggestion at all. I just leave it as is because I don't like the suggestion. Sometimes I'll integrate a little bit of the suggestion. Um, and for some reason, ChatGPT loves M dashes and N dashes. I don't allow any of that to creep into my writing because one of the biggest signs that AI is involved is the N dash and the M dash. Both are dashes that happen in the middle between the top and the bottom of the line, but one is shorter than the other. And there are legitimate uses for both. But again, because they're so frequently used by AI, I won't use them at all. A lot of times when ChatGPT, if you want to use a sentence that ChatGPT comes up with, and I've used sentences and sentence fragments, not entire paragraphs, and paste them in. If it has an M dash or an N dash, a lot of times you can normally just put a comma or a semicolon in those sections. And another thing that I've done too, if there's so the find and replace. I don't use I don't use MS Office anymore. I've said this on prior videos, so people might be hearing this for the second or third time. I use a free open source word processor called LibreOffice. It's Microsoft Office basically, but free. Another thing that you can use, a powerful tool, obviously Control F or Control Find if you're looking for a particular word. Like for instance, every time I mention the book's name inside the book, I want to make sure that's italicized. So I'll hit Control F and the word scintilla. And I find every instance in this manuscript that I've written and I make sure that it's italicized. So, but also I can do find and replace. So every time if I decided to change the title to the scintillas instead of scintilla, I can go in. I forget what the keyword is, but I can do find and replace and tell it every time you find an instance of the word scintilla, replace it with the scintillas. Some of you may already know that, but these keyboard tricks and things like that are very powerful. Now, eventually, I'm going to get good at using um, what's the writing program? I bought it a long time ago, used it a little bit, but I've heard so many great things about it. I just have to spend the time in learning it. It'll come to me. Let me see what we've got here. I thought editors were all the same. Yeah, me too. You don't know what you don't know, Marie. You know, you really don't know. Um, Suggestions when looking for an editor. Well, that's the problem, Marie. I would say, and to talk about this editor from Upwork so I would say go to Upwork. Number one, he had a pretty good rating when I hired him, and it's been more than a year since I've worked with him, and his rating has dropped a lot. So I must have just contracted with him right when he was going into a slump, you know. Um, and I'm sorry to say this, but when I'm paying somebody, I don't care what they're going through. It's very, very different if somebody's a friend, or I'm providing someone a service. If someone's providing me a service, I don't care how their day is. I want my money's worth. So the dynamic changes the moment money gets involved. Anyway, I won't go into that whole big thing, but he didn't deliver the money's worth, not at all. Um, but if you had to look at criteria, Upwork is very good because the people that work with them do give them ratings, and you would just want to go with the highest rated person. Um, I do a lot of business with people overseas. My virtual assistant, Caroline, she's in Nicaragua. I've worked with people from different areas, but I would say get it. One of the few people that I probably wouldn't hire from outside the US would be an editor. I want an American editor. I want somebody you could get somebody who's got a PhD in English from the Philippines, but I would choose an editor that has written books or that has edited um, a book that did pretty well. And then if you don't want that level of expense, because those people are a lot more expensive, if you're trying to save money, then get somebody who's had a lot of projects as an editor on Upwork, because you can look at all the contracts that anybody's ever had as a freelancer. So you're on there looking for freelancers. So that's my suggestion to you. Look at their feedback rating, read the comments really, really well, and look at what they've been editing. Are they editing fiction? Are they editing fantasy, nonfiction? Because completely different skill set. Um, and it might even be worth your time, Marie, to work with a developmental editor first and just say, look, I want to pay you to look at this whole thing, make some big, broad brushstroke suggestions. And if your advice resonates with me, we'll work together a little bit more. And then you'll jump from them and get an editor that can help bring your book to the finish line. So let's see what else you have here. Um, yes and no. You said I heard Amazon won't publish books if they're written by AI. They do have some AI detection that's easy to defeat. Um, the thing that Amazon, and I don't want to speak out of turn because here I want to be careful. I try to be very honest about what I know and what I don't know, and I don't want to sit here and pretend I know something that I don't. So we are getting into an area where I don't have a strong level of expertise. I'll tell you what I do know, that Amazon is really cracking down on what they call low content books, workbooks, drawing books, where there's not a lot of words, there's not a lot of content, because they're getting overwhelmed with those titles. They do have AI detection, and when you upload your book to KDP, I can tell you this for sure. It does ask you, did you use AI? And then it's got three different levels of questions, and it may still be the same. The last time I looked at it was a couple of months ago. It'll say, was this completely written by AI? Was it half written by AI, or did you just kind of get a little bit of assistance by AI? And what I'll say to you, Marie, too, is there are AI detectors. Some of them are for free. You can upload chapters, and I think a few of the free ones may even take your entire manuscript, and it'll give you a score of whether it thinks it was written by AI or not. So if you're concerned about Amazon flagging you for any reason, you can have your Amazon checked with these free tools. And again, I apologize, I don't know them off the top of my head, but you can Google, or if you've got a good relationship with Chat GPT, you can ask, well, actually, you know what? Let's get Eva in here. Let me get my money's worth from my Chat GPT 5.1. Hey, Eva, give me I have a friend that has a manuscript that wants to feed it through a search engine to get a score to see if it was written by AI or not, because they want to make sure that they want to make sure that Amazon accepts their book. So are there any free tools out there where you can upload an entire manuscript to get a score if the machine thinks it's AI written or human written?
Absolutely. There are indeed some free AI detection tools out there. For example, tools like Originality.ai and GPT-0 offer free versions or free trials where you can upload text and get an AI likeness score. They typically let you paste or upload a chunk of the manuscript at a time. Just keep in mind the free tools might have some limitations on how much you can check at once, but they'll definitely help your friend get a good sense of whether their text looks human written or not.
There you go. And like I said, I think AI writing is so bad. I riff off of it, but I would never to wholesale pick up a whole paragraph and drop it in. Ooh, man, no. Not if you want to say. I mean, I guess maybe there'd be certain instances where you could do it, but I'm a snob. I just don't think Chat is that good of a writer. Now, this time next year, as fast as everything's moving, who knows? I mean, everything might be as good as Hemingway this time next year. You know, we don't know, but I think Chat GPT 5.1, giving it everything I've got, I still think it sucks. Great to riff off of, gives me some ideas, but wholesale to pick it up and paste it, no, it's just not there. Let's see what else we've got here. You've got that, okay, Marie? And I write the sentence, and Grammarly suggests a better way to write it. Use that. Yeah, yeah. So that's not Grammarly is not going to get your book flagged for AI. That's completely different. And I did install the free version of Grammarly. I've used three different browsers for three different reasons, and I know Grammarly is the free version is loaded into one of them. And I've had Grammarly look at my manuscript, certain chapters, but I don't because I have the free version. I don't think I can give it the whole book. But I do use AI to write entire full paragraphs. I just don't use I look at it, I get the idea of what it's trying to say, and then I write it in my way. And I've seen a lot of people on social media say that they could train the AI to write how I write, but I'm so new in my writer's journey. I don't want to sound funny, but I don't have a writer's voice yet. Um, I don't feel like I have a unique writing voice. I think I'll probably be in my third book before I develop what I would consider to be a style. So how in the world could I train AI to write like me when I don't know how I write? This second book is the style in it is not vastly different from the first, but it's different. You could, hopefully people can tell a little bit that of a quality difference because I've grown a lot as a writer. And I have to thank all these great writers that I've been reading and Joanne Penn, her books are great about writing and the process of publishing, and she's living the dream. She is self-published, a full-time self-published writer, huge podcaster. She's an introvert, which is funny, and she's successfully selling her books. I mean, she's not only has her own fictional series of books that are selling like hotcakes, she's also one of the hottest nonfiction authors for how to make money off of writing or how to write. I'd say I've read at least 6 or 7 of her books. And of course, there are some classics. If you want motivation, I just finished Not Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. That's one of the few writing books that I haven't read. I've been saving that. Writing Down the Bones by, was it Elaine Goldberg? Let's get That's okay. I just know the last name is Goldberg. That's a good motivational book to motivate you to write. Um, Several of Stephen Pressfield's books are good. The War of Art. Joanna Penn, and it's Joannapenn, and she's British. She's from the UK. Great lady. I'd love to meet her. Uh, she does a lot of podcasting and some clinics and things like that. And she's doing it. I mean, so she's out there selling things that that she knows how to sell. She's doing very, very well for herself. I mean, that's where I think where Joanna is in her career is where a lot of people want to be. And seems like she'd be a really great person to meet. And like I said before, Strunk and White's Elements of Style. That's a tiny little guidebook, all nuts and bolts. Great book. Stephen King's On Writing. That's 50-50. It's semi-autobiographical. It's a little bit motivational. There's a great story in there where when he was starting his writing career, he was just trying to write for these little science horror magazines. Kept getting rejected, kept getting rejected. So he decided to put a nail on the wall and paste these rejections. And he got so many rejections, he had to keep buying larger and larger and larger nails. And it finally ended up the size of a phone book. And he said by the time he had almost run out of space on this giant nail, just pasted with all of these rejections, the editors of these magazines that he was trying to get published in started to return his work with subtle suggestions. Like, Stephen, you got something good here, but you need to develop the protagonist. Stephen, the beginning of this is really strong, but you need to button this up in a way that, and so then he got enough of their attention that he started making changes and his writing got better and he started following what these editors were saying. And then he started getting published and published and published. And obviously Stephen King is even to this day, I would presume, very prolific. He produces a lot of work. Joanna Penn is also very prolific. Um, they obviously have some really good time management techniques. I set aside 2 hours a day in the morning. That's a lot of time, I know, but how long do you want the book to take, right? Do you want to take 7 years like Robert Caro's book, The Power Broker? Monstrous book, so considered one of the greatest biographies out there in the Western Hemisphere. Really dynamite. I think it took him 7 years. And he was at it every day. I mean, the reason why it took him so long is it's so well researched. But if you're putting in 2 hours a day, I've written the second book. I've written it at either double or 3 times the speed of my first book because of the lessons that I learned from writing the first book. And for those of you working on your first book, your second book I think is going to be so much better. Because there's just things that you're not going to understand until you go through this process. Yes, Stephen King is amazing. I like some of the movies as well. But Writing Down the Bones, that's a good one. Um, There's another book by the same title called On Writing, which is really good, and I can't think of who wrote that, so I don't want to sit here and riff off of things that I can't say by memory. But there's a previous episode where I had Eva talk go through a list of books for writers. But Joanna Penn, if you're trying to make a career as a writer, her stuff's really good, even though she talks about how to write as well. So let's see if there's so we're oh wow we're over. I went way over time here without realizing. That's good. I appreciate the questions, Marie, because that kept me. Yeah, yeah. So there's plenty of stuff left for next time. Does anybody have any questions in for the wrap up? I'll give it a minute for everybody to catch up if you have any ending questions. So I'll let Eva help us out with some information. Hey Eva, can you give me a dozen titles and the author's name of some of the most popular books, particularly for people writing nonfiction that would help a nonfiction writer? Just give me the list of the book and the name. You don't have to give descriptions of each.
Sure thing. Here are a dozen popular books that can really help nonfiction writers. One, On Writing Well by William Zinsser, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, The Elements of Style by William Strunk Jr. and E.B. White, The Art of Memoir by Mary Karr, Storycraft by Jack Hart, How to Write by Roy Peter Clark, Everybody Writes by Anne Handley, The Sense of Style by Steven Pinker, Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg, Save the Cat Writes a Book by Jessica Brody, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. You are a writer, so start acting like one. These should be a great start.
And I'll tell you, out of I've read half of those, and the Steven Pinker book, I'm sorry, it did not didn't do anything for me, and I actually didn't finish it. I would say in the last 5 years there are more and more books that I don't finish because I've read so many. I think this current version of my Audible account, I have 344 books. That's just this current version of Audible. So I go through a lot of books, but I'm at the point now I'll give them three or four chapters, and if they're not really moving by then, I don't have the time. I'm really big into time management, and I think all of us know, as we get past a certain age, we realize, time is very valuable. I don't even watch as many movies as I used to, and I'm a big movie buff, but man, if I get the feeling it's not going to be good, I'll switch off and I'll go to something else. So Pinker's book didn't do much for me, but the one she mentioned about, I think, On Writing by William Zissner, that's a good one. That's a good one. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the one where he really pushes. If you say it in a dozen words, see if you can say it in five. And to any fledgling writer, I think people, their initial instinct is to be too verbose, to write too much. I think that's very common. And now I go back. I had a lot of compound sentences and things like that before. When I go back, I strip things down. I rip entire paragraphs out. If it's not driving the point forward, and if you're doing fiction, obviously you're driving the narrative forward. If it's not speaking straight to the point of that chapter or what I'm trying and not juicy, and I get rid of it. Um, Big long sentences with a lot of commas, they're gone. I'd say in that whole revision of Scintilla, there's probably less than 2 dozen long sentences in 160 something pages. Yeah, 224 long sentence. That's it. Everything else is because especially in nonfiction, you're delivering information and you want impact sentences, and that draws people in, draws people's attention. And something I didn't understand the first time I wrote the book that I understand it now, I write visually, or I edit visually, I should say. So I'm more cautious about how this paragraph ends. And at the beginning of each chapter, and I don't know how this is going to play out, but this is the current version of Scintilla. I open each chapter with a short paragraph, no more than 4 lines. And the reason for that is I want them to get into that chapter easily. Usually the very first sentence of each chapter is less than 5 words. So it's a short impact sentence, and then I'm drawing them in because I don't know at what point that they've put the book down and they've picked it back up. But I want to hook them at the beginning of each chapter. And on the end of the chapter, at least the last paragraph or a couple of paragraphs before the very end, I tease what's coming up so that there's just these hooks and connections between everything. And again, the first time I wrote the book, none of that was in there. And I'm not saying that the second book is going to be a Pulitzer Prize, but it's so much better than the first version. And so what I was saying by editing visually, I'll look at the lengths of the paragraphs and think you don't want to give them 3 long paragraphs in a row. You've got to break it up visually. On an audiobook, it's not gonna matter. But on your softback and your hardback, if you beat them up and you give them 3 7 sentence paragraphs in a row, you're going to wear them out. I mean, that's a lot of, it doesn't seem like much, but it's going to be a lot of lifting. So if I deliver a really big paragraph, I try not to do another big paragraph behind it. And unfortunately, I have to go back and rewrite the material. I have this idea in my head of what I want to convey in that chapter, but I also don't want to exhaust the reader. So I think about that pacing. Big paragraph, small paragraph. If I 2 medium-sized paragraphs and then a little one, breaks and things like that. So in as far as nonfiction, and I think most of the people in the group are nonfiction. So I'm just going to keep speaking as if that's the audience. There are some parts of the book where I have a point that's so important to me, I'll make it a single sentence paragraph. A single sentence stands by its own. So instead of putting it in a paragraph where it might get lost in a meaning, do I put this point at the beginning, sandwich it in the middle of the paragraph at the end? No, it gets, if I really want to drive it home, a sentence by itself. The grammar police aren't going to come get you. If you want them to really, and you can make it bold and you can not make it bold. I mean, be careful with the formatting. But if you're really trying to drop the hammer on something, a single sentence by itself. And again, I got through a whole book, 160 pages the first time and didn't understand any of this. So hopefully you're getting some value out of this. If you've got friends that are writers, that want to be writers, that you think should be a writer, get them into the Facebook group, get them into the LinkedIn group. It's the same group, except there's only like 3 or 4 people on LinkedIn, but that'll change eventually. Get them into this channel because I will continue to talk about writers a lot. I will go back to the interview format, hopefully get some guests on here. But art and artistry will always be a big part of this channel because I love creatives. I get inspired and excited. You can tell by the energy when I talk about this that I'm more excited about what you're doing and what you might write than what I'm doing. But I do enjoy talking about process and trying to keep you from making the same mistakes I did. And I want this to go very fast for you so that you're not sitting on your project and taking 3 years to get your manuscript out. I want you to just run at it. So thank you, Marie. I appreciate you coming in. And Mike, I don't know if you're still with us, but thank you for jumping in. And I'm going to button it up here. I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, everybody. It looks like we've got several people watching. I'm very grateful. I'm humbled. Connect with me. We've got the writers group on Facebook. We've got the writers group. Just connect with me. You can write on this channel, hey, what's your stuff? Or you can go back through some of my previous videos and the links to a lot of my socials. The writers group is bigger on Facebook than it is LinkedIn. Definitely subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody coming in. I have so many windows open. It's gonna it's gonna take me a moment to figure out how to get all of this closed down. So, all right, we'll see everybody.